You're listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, where my mission is to help you create a life that sparks the light inside of you. And this is episode number 297. The manifestation comes after the shift. This episode is inspired by so many experiences that I've had in my life where this has happened. And it's happened a couple of times recently, and I've just had it so many times that before the manifestation comes, I actually know it's coming because I've shifted. So I want to explain what this means, and more importantly, I also want to teach you how to shift, because explaining what it means is great if you stumble into this shift, but that really doesn't do much for you. So in this episode, stay tuned till the end. You will actually learn how to shift, which I think is the best part. But before we get there, we need to talk about what all of this means. So when you want something, especially as that desire increases and the amount of time that you've maybe been waiting for that thing increases, and you start to feel desperate, needy, like you want it really badly, or maybe you even need it for XYZ reason, you start to feel almost helpless without that thing. That is terrible energy. And you will never, ever, ever manifest what you want from that energy. But I get it. I feel that way. I don't want to say frequently, but I definitely get into that pattern from time to time again. And it's completely normal. And I think everyone does. The key is shifting. And when you become a better manifester, you learn to shift faster. You learn to recognize that you're in it and then find a way to shift. That's the key. So when I say the manifestation comes after the shift, what I mean is nothing in your external circumstances has changed. Like if you're kind of in a rough patch, which I feel this happens a lot of times when you are in a rough patch, and nothing has gotten better on the outside. You should have no reason, if we're looking logically at the facts, to feel any better inside. So it's not like, oh, okay, let's just take a college student example. You just got back a bunch of midterms and you did poorly on all of them. And you're like, man, I'm doing so bad in school right now. Like you're just really stressed out about your grades. This is definitely something I've lived before, especially in college. When I say the manifestation comes after the shift and nothing has changed, it means you haven't gotten one little ounce of positive reinforcement that you're going to be doing better in a class. You didn't even raise your hand in a class and your teacher said, that was a great contribution. Or you didn't even get a homework assignment back that you got 100 on. Like nothing has changed. Everything is the same. You have heard nothing from those grades, those classes, and you're still in the same exact external circumstance. But here's the shift. Your internal circumstance changes. So the way that you feel on the inside no longer matches your reality on the outside. You actually start to feel better. And sometimes I think to myself, this is really crazy. If someone just kind of came into my life right now and saw the crappy situation that I'm in, they would think I was a lunatic for the way I feel on the inside. But it's not delusion. This is the key here. It's not wishful thinking. It's not blind optimism. It's hope. And hope is about understanding that the future can be better than the past and taking back your power in making the future better than the past. That is the difference between hope and wishful thinking or blind optimism. So what I want to talk about is how do we get to that place where we start to feel better on the inside when you're in the situation where everything is crappy on the outside? The first step is what I call take your power back. You know that feeling. You know when you feel helpless, and you know the difference between feeling helpless and feeling power. And the key difference between helplessness and power is control. This was proven in Dr. Martin Seligman's studies in the 1960s of dogs being shocked controllably versus uncontrollably. The dogs that were shocked uncontrollably, meaning that there is nothing that they could do to avoid the shocks, became helpless. They laid down and did not try to fight the shocks or escape the situation. And what's really scary about this is even when the dogs were moved to a new situation where half of the box that they were in was a shock floor and the other half was a non-shock floor, meaning if they just jumped over a very low barrier, they could be free from the shock. They didn't even try to escape because they already became helpless. But the dogs that were previously in a situation where they had control over the shock, if they press a certain button, the shock would stop. When they were in that same situation where half the floor was divided, they quickly leaped over and found their way into the shock-free floor. So control is everything. And when we feel helpless, the key to taking our power back is asking ourselves, what are we in control of? That simple shift can change everything and help you shift from a helpless state to an empowered state. There are always things that you're in control of. I know many situations feel like they're out of your control, right? I'm going to give a couple examples here. One is health. So when Michael was in the hospital, and Michael's my son, if you're a new listener, I know we're like constantly grabbing new people every week from social media, TikTok and Instagram reels and things. So thank you for joining us. Michael's my son. He's 14 months old currently, but when he was born, we spent 6 weeks at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He was born with a rare disease, and essentially there was very little as parents that we felt like we were in control of, right? We couldn't control his doctor's plan, which tests did not work for Michael, which medications did not work. I mean, constantly we were experiencing situations where the doctors would try something, it wouldn't work. Try something, it wouldn't work. That was our entire experience in the hospital for 6 weeks. What were we in control of? Number one, I was in control of feeding him breast milk, which his doctors assured me would help him, would help heal him. Not that it was the answer or the secret or some crazy solution, but it was the healthiest form of nutrition. And was the best option. So I pumped every 3 hours. It was brutal for any moms who've pumped. They know what it's like. And I did that for a year because it has helped him immensely. And it was something that I was in control of. And I felt empowered, like I could help him. What else were we in control of? We were in control of our energy and the love we gave him, which I truly believe energy is contagious, and gave him strength. And we just always showed up for him, which is very hard when you have a crying newborn in general. It's very hard to constantly have that, selfless attitude. But it's even harder when you're sleeping on a shared couch, which this couch I'm on now, if you're watching the video, was probably about the size of it. It's pretty, it was a little longer this way, but it was no more wide this way. And if you're not watching the video, if you're listening on audio, for context, it was smaller than a twin bed in terms of width. And my husband, Richie, and I shared it. So the only way we could both sleep is if I turned my body sideways. So if you're watching the video, you can see I turned my entire body sideways. And I couldn't ever lay flat on my back or my stomach because I would fall off, because Richie's obviously bigger than me. So imagine how little sleep I actually got on top of the waking up every 3 hours to pump and then feed the baby that pumped bottle. So that was a period of like an hour, and then I would have only 2 more hours to sleep before I had to get up again, which is totally normal, new parent things. Lots of new parents go through this. From that couch, it was rough. But we focused on what we were in control of. And even when everything fell out of my control, I also knew that I could control my conversations with his doctors. So towards the end of our stay, which we didn't know it was towards the end of our stay, nothing was working still. Like, we didn't experience a time. This is the exact situation I'm talking about with the Manifestation Comes after this shift. Nothing got better when we were in the hospital. It wasn't like, oh, he's making progress, you'll probably be going home soon. Every single test they tried failed. Every single medication they tried failed. They were puzzled. He was an extremely puzzling case. And we're talking like Wednesday of our, I think it was the 5th week we're in the hospital. We were going home that Friday. We didn't know. We wake up, I think we woke up Wednesday morning and he had failed an overnight fast, which that was one of the big things they were doing were these overnight fasts to see if he could maintain his blood sugar overnight because it was a blood sugar issue. And his doctors come in the morning and they're like, well, he probably just needs a higher dose. At this point, he's on sugar water. So no kinds of drugs or anything, just 24 hours a day, sugar water to help maintain his blood sugar. And my husband actually took control of the situation and said, Jacqueline's birthday is on Saturday. What would we need to do in order to go home on Friday so that we could wake up at home on my birthday? I'm going to tear up. And if that conversation never happened, I think we would have been in the hospital a couple more weeks just trying things. I really do. But his doctors agreed that there was really no reason why he couldn't go home because everything they were doing from the hospital at this point, we could do at home. We could have him getting that continuous dose of sugar water. We would just need to have him hooked up to a pump 24 hours a day, which was challenging for obvious reasons, but way better than living at a hospital. And because we took our power back in a situation where we felt powerless, we got to bring our baby home the night before my birthday, and I woke up on my 29th birthday in my own bed. And I can surely say that was the greatest night's sleep, happiest night's sleep I've ever gotten in my entire life. And it's so easy in situations like that, where all the factors feel completely outside of your control and nothing is getting better, to feel powerless. I can think of situations in my business where I felt powerless. You know, you're trying all these things to get your business off the ground and nothing is working. And it's like when you go for something over and over and over again and you experience repeated failure and it never works. You just get to the point where you want to stop trying. And that's what hopelessness is. But even in those situations, there are always things that are in your control. So just do a brain dump. Write down a list of 10 things that are in your control in a situation where you feel powerless in. Don't stop until you think of 10. There are 10. Tell me any situation. I will come up with things. They may not be these really direct, hey, this directly controls the outcome, but they all matter. So that's the first step. The second step to the shift is looking inward and asking yourself, with this information of what I am in control of, what's my plan going forward? So it's easy to have a vision in our head of how we want things to work out. I wanted to go home from the hospital 2 days after giving birth with my baby who was healthy, but that wasn't my life. That wasn't what happened. So we can't stay stuck in that. It's great to have a vision. We have to be flexible to what is. That is a huge key of resilience. So what is your plan given what is right now? It doesn't mean it will last forever. It doesn't mean that you'll never be able to, have an experience in the future that matches your vision. But it means that right now, today, this is the situation. And when you finally take your power back enough to make a plan and you say, this isn't ideal, I might hate this. Like there are so many times in my business where it's like, man, I have to put more money into my business. And I would get so annoyed because I'm like, I just wanted to get to a point where I didn't have to do that anymore, where my business was fully profitable. And for so many years, I would constantly find myself in that situation and I feel so frustrated. And then I would just say, okay, I don't want this. Here are all the things that I'm doing to try to change that situation. so that I don't find myself here in the future. But right now, this is where I am. So what am I going to do about it? I'm going to deposit $500 in the account and keep moving forward, right? So what are you going to do today, given what is? And when you can answer that question and you start, you know what? You don't even have to take action. You have to make a mental decision, a full body, yes, this is what I'm doing next. And you know you've made the decision when you feel lighter. You know you've shifted when you feel better inside. That's it. When you feel better on the inside. That's what we've been talking about this whole episode, right? So that's how you get there. And once you shift, the manifestation always comes. Sometimes it takes a day or two. And it's so funny because in the past, I would have these experiences. I would shift. I would feel better. I would always tell my friends, like, it feels crazy, but I'm starting to feel better, XYZ. And then, oh my gosh, this crazy thing happened. And it's oftentimes really crazy things. Like, let me just tell you one story that I think articulates this. There was a time where cash flow was really tight in my business and I was really stressed and blah, blah, blah. And same thing, I shifted. I just decided I'm letting all that go. This is what I'm in control of. This is my plan. And I just put my head down and I was like, amazing. I got paid for a speech that I hadn't yet given in full. So usually it depends on a lot of circumstances, but I may get paid a deposit in advance and things like that. I got paid in full over 2 months before I gave the speech. Just randomly direct deposit to my bank account that day. No contact from the company telling me that they were going to send payment. I mean, we had like exchanged the contract and things. The payment was not due until the event. And you just can't make this kind of stuff up. It was the day that I shifted. The day. So it always happens that way. The manifestation comes after the shift. And I know I said in the last episode that I want you guys to tell me your visions and stuff, which I do. But I really, really, really want you to tell me about your manifestations because this is so fun and it's real and it's happening all around us every day. And I want to celebrate with you. So I'd love to hear what was your shift and what was the manifestation that you had after. Send me a message on Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Spark Your Light, and I will catch you in the next episode.